Welcome back to Postgraduate Day of Research Week 2022. Research and academic writing are an art that requires higher focus and practice. So, Grammarly and Writefull are modern software that supports academics to sharpen their writing and deliver better manuscript preparation. So, to share knowledge and practices on the uses of this software, our resource person was a graduate of the Civil Engineering Department at University of Moratuwa and completed PhD in Environmental Engineering from Saitama University, Japan. He worked as an advisor on environmental related work for the Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development Sri Lanka. He is currently working as a professor in environmental engineering at the University of Moratuwa. He is a researcher who conducted researches in diverse areas and published more than 70 journals and conference papers. So, I graciously invite Professor Mahesh Jayaweera to share tips for beginners on the use of Grammarly and Writefull software. Sir, it's over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. And I'll try my best to, finish within the given time. So when it comes to this topic, and I was requested by Professor Ajit and Dr. Nayane to give my thoughts on what I have been doing. So I thought that when it comes to the postgraduate students, one of the major hurdles would be the publications. So therefore, I thought that I should share my experiences with you so that you will try, hard to improve your skills in what is called manuscript preparation, because that is going to be the first part of your publications. Let us navigate and see as to what you can do as we go along. First thing is we need to understand what you mean by a manuscript. A manuscript is what you very first start up when you're about to write or when you're about to deliver your publication. Okay. When you start your manuscript, initially you have no idea exactly how your publication looks like. But what you're going to give is a bit of an attempt that you will come out with a good publication. When you're going to start your career in postgraduates, you think you're the best. Right? And as you go on developing your skills, you know that you need to improve yourself a lot. Same applies to me. When I started my first publication, I thought that is nothing impossible. I could do it within 2 weeks or maximum 1 month. But it took me 6 months to finish first publication. One of the beauty in my publications is that I write 95% of each and every publication by myself. I hardly, get assistance from my students. So that made me focus on this. So I do believe that you will make use of this session to improve yourself and to come out with good publications, let's say at high impacted journals. And when you're going to look at again, in general it says that your research work in the form of delivery to others is a very paramount. You may do a very good research, unless it comes out in the form of a publication, nobody recognizes you. Nobody says that you have done a good work. So therefore, publication is a very important part and parcel of your journey in postgraduate studies. And sometimes you believe that you throw out everything you know. And at the end of the day, you can't graduate because you have no publications, right? Or in other words, you risk your life sometimes getting into the area of academic career or maybe getting postgraduate career. Sometimes you ruin the entire life. There have been many cases like that. So therefore, this is a very important aspects of your life because every one of you is a postgraduate student here. Whether you like it or not, you have to publish, and then only you can basically graduate, which is not the real case, but truly speaking in Sri Lanka, that is the case. But in US, you don't need a publication for you to graduate. But unfortunately in Sri Lanka, that is the yardstick. You can't get away from that. So what is important? What is important is a preparation of manuscript in no time, professionally, diligently, and with lot of caution. If you can do in such a way, your first part of the publication called the manuscript is ready. So that is what we are now trying to do. You don't want to write anything here. I'm going to make this presentation available for you. You can be able to download, so listen very carefully. That is what I want, that is what I would like you to do. So now everybody knows that it is very important. When it comes to manuscript, why the better manuscript preparation important? As I mentioned earlier, you believe that the prepared manuscript is up to the standard level of whatever the journal which is in question. You think that you are the best, and you think that you can pitch the quality of the journal that you keep in your mind. That is how we start. Every one of us starts believing ourselves. That's how it should be. And then when you're looking at the statistics, on average more than 100 manuscripts per day are received by editors-in-chief of many Elsevier journals, but less than 10 are to be accepted for further reviews, which is basically called desk rejection. Right? So then what is important? You have to be one of these 10 members or the 10, let's say, researchers. 90% or the 90 will be rejected. That's the nature, that's how it works nowadays. If you are pitching a fairly high impact factor journals, so that's why I have taken the Elsevier journals. Basically, most of the Elsevier journals are at a higher level. So you got to be one of those whose paper is selected for further review. That is your first hurdle. So definitely it's going to be a challenge for you. Then what is important, you need to conquer this hurdle. Somehow or other, you need to win this. And you have to make sure that you win the heart of the editor-in-chief to which you have written your manuscript. How? Only through better manuscript preparation. So you need to know a nitty-gritties of how to prepare a better manuscript. So how you achieve a better manuscript preparation? By avoiding the pitfalls that reject your manuscript. That is what is basically called the rejection, but you need to know the art of getting your paper accepted by the editor-in-chief. Because when you submit, it goes to the editor-in-chief, or sometimes he might basically assign another co-editor-in-chief of that particular subject area. Whoever, never minds, you need to win that hurdle. When you submit a manuscript of a journal, I would like to read this one, it's very important. You are probably wondering what the reviewer will say about it. But before your paper is sent out for peer reviews, journal staff will look at it and decide whether to send your manuscript for review. Some articles never make it past these steps. I would say 90% stops at this level, right? And if you are fortunate enough, you belong to the minority 10%. And it receives a quick rejection without being assigned an editor or sent for review. Then what you do, you select another journal and then you write again, and then getting it rejected once again, and then you try to come down from the impact factor high journals to the sometimes predatory journals. That is where you stop at the predatory journal level, right? But you never think of improving yourself so as to get it accepted by, I would say, Elsevier editors-in-chief. So then you need to understand. You can avoid this fate by noting some of these main pitfalls of why a journal might not consider your article for peer review. So you have to ponder as to why your paper is rejected. If you can understand, looking at what you have written, and then there is a room for you to improve yourself, and the next time you are going to do much better than what you have done earlier. Even though you can't predict what your reviewers will say, you can at least make the best effort to ensure that your manuscript makes it to peer review in the first place. So that is what you should do. In the process of publication, the most difficult part is this. If this is true, 90% of chance of your paper being accepted even through reviewers. So therefore, this is the most difficult part, right? If the editor-in-chief is in different mood, sorry, your paper may get still rejected. So therefore, you have to submit your paper looking at Rahu Kalia and make sure that it is not get rejected by the editors-in-chief. Otherwise, we don't know, right? So therefore, a very, very important part. Then when it comes to common pitfalls that make your manuscript reject, with the probabilities, I have looked at this because I know some of these editors-in-chiefs, so that's how I got this paper. And then it says why it is rejected at initial level, because you're talking of a manuscript. We can't still call it a paper, so still we call it a manuscript. These are the pitfalls identified many editors-in-chief. The topic is not within the journal scope, right? So usually it is little more than 5% falls onto this category. The manuscript types doesn't match what the journal usually publishes. Very rare, basically whether you belong to that particular journal or not, 2% roughly. The manuscript does not follow basic journal guidelines. Still it is there. Because I'm talking of this, whatever the statistics which are applicable for Asians, right? This is all for Asians. So still we do not follow sometimes the guideline. Then again your manuscript can get rejected. The most important one is next one. The writing doesn't meet basic standard. 60%. In some Elsevier journals, more than 60%. And in the journal that I write, and I got this editor's comment, 90% of Asian papers rejected, mainly because of the fact that our English is poor. You think that there is no grammatical, no spelling mistakes, that you are perfect. No, we call the tone of the paper is not right. Or in other words, the wording, the vocabulary you use are not right. So therefore your paper can get rejected. So that is the number one cause or the pitfall for your paper being rejected at the initial level. Then comes the problem with references, missing out information, so that is not very difficult. You can be able to meet up all these challenges, but the last one, plagiarism and self-plagiarism, 20%. I hope you understand the meaning of these two. Plagiarism is you are copying from someone else. Self-plagiarism is something very new, which is very common in you. You are trying to get what you publish, maybe even in a conference, straight away to the manuscript, which is not possible, right? How the people find it, once you, let's say for a conference, you do something and which appears in the internet, so therefore that comes under self-plagiarism if you have to copy the same thing back to your manuscript. Never do it, right? And I have seen a habit of you publishing same thing in conference and going to the publication, you are publishing the same content even in the, the journal, which you can't do. Because if you do, then it comes under self-plagiarism. So then your paper is going to be rejected. Completely it is to be rejected. So 20%. Now this is something which is now going up, particularly for the Asians. So you have to be very careful. So you must select what to publish in conference, what not to publish in conferences, and what to publish in journals and what not to publish in journals. So that is the management that you have to do by yourself. Okay? So the general, the canon is that you publish very little, your preliminary findings in conferences, whereas the journal is, the platform where you publish your maximum output. That is how you should plan. And let us look at these two. What I have given here in green color are the most important ones that you need to work on. If you can work on that, definitely your manuscript has a higher chance of getting it accepted. So where did the majority go wrong for these two? So therefore we have to focus on these two. And when it comes to the first one, again I am copying, and then this nice article, and he says that your writing doesn't have to be perfect. None of us are not native English speakers. So therefore you don't want to worry. But your manuscript should be understood by the people who read it so they can assess it correctly, right? Though we are not native speakers, it does not mean that the reader should not grasp correctly. That is where we get stuck. Many journal editors will not send the paper out for review if there are too many language mistakes, or if it is challenging to follow along with even the basic outline of your manuscript. After all, if it is difficult to read, it will be even more difficult for peer reviewers to assess the quality of your research. The editor-in-chief never send your paper to any reviewer because it is a disgrace to that particular journal, right? Editor doesn't like reviewers to know that the editor has picked up something which is, I would say, below average. So therefore that is a moral obligation of an editor not to send you one even to the reviewers. So therefore best thing is to get everything, put it into the dustbin. Right. So therefore that is what has been happening with many editors-in-chief. Then what you can do, before sending off your manuscript, take some time to focus on the writing. Check spelling and grammar and fix and typos and unclear sentences. Don't forget to check your figured legends as well. If you need help with writing, some journals will be able to recommend language editing services. Some are there, but now you don't need to go for this language editing services. You yourself can be able to master everything by yourself. That is where we are now heading. Then comes the plagiarism and self-plagiarisms. Same thing, I don't want to read this one, so it's very, very easy for you to understand. And one thing that I would like to mention here is the last sentence, and it says that you try to split your work into small sections, and then you try to publish. Let's say your first journal article comes in one aspect of your study. The second article you are writing more or less the same thing, but slightly different angle. That is even prohibited, because the editors-in-chief check whether a similar article is published elsewhere. If he finds your name connected with the similar articles, then they call it salami slicing, or they may call mushroom publishing. Right? Sri Lankans are very famous for this. You go to Google Scholars, get the top paper. They have been doing this. They know the art of practicing that, which is of no use. So therefore, do not do that. In future, one of the editors told me, in future, that is going to make, a certain decisions, so that the original paper will also be retracted. Right. So we have to think that very clearly. As far as I am concerned, I do on average maximum 3 per given year. I can't do more than that. But there are certain people who do 20, 30 for a given year. I don't know how they work. Right? So, is there a necessity for you to do it? There may be, yes, everybody wishes to have more and more publications, but the problem is the quality and what you come out with that. So, as far as I am concerned, I do believe, coming out with the quality publications, let's say minimum number, would be much better than doing what you call this salami slicing or mushroom publishing. Right? So that is, the decision is yours, and at the end of the day, you will definitely flourish. Right? So therefore, when you publish, you will understand the importance of that. If you want to mention something again, what we say is paraphrase it and cite the source. Before submitting the manuscript, use software, rigorously check plagiarisms and ensure it is less than 10%. In my case, always I make sure that it is less than 2%. I don't want to take a risk. Right? Sometimes it may be not easy for you to bring it down to 2%. But I made it somehow or other using what is called paraphrasing. Or in other words, same sentence I do write in different ways. You don't want to do by yourself now. Everything. There are softwares with which you can do it pretty easily. So keep this in mind. That is also one of the areas where we have to give our priority when it comes to publishing. So you need to conquer the language barrier for better manuscript preparation. What a challenge it is, how? When it comes to this, you know that 45% of Elsevier journals are written by Chinese. All right. And when you are looking at this 45%, only 2% knows their English well. 43% does not know English at all, but they do publish. How? That is the challenge that we are also going to do. Use of AI inbuilt software for better writing. This is what we need to do. Your future is basically on the use of AI inbuilt software. Or in other words, what do you mean by AI inbuilt? These softwares will understand the field, the area in which you work. Right? Now say, for example, for me, I can write a paper in the field of environmental engineering, but I can't write anything in the field of, let's say, IT. But with these facilities I can be able to do as if I'm an engineer in IT. Absolutely no problem. So that is what we should be able to inculcate with the use of this AI supported software. Now these are the worldwide popular AI inbuilt software when you are looking at the global statistics in year 2021, as far as I could remember here. Now this is actually one article from Nature, and it says these are the best used software when it comes to manuscript preparation or academic writing. Grammarly, Ginger, Writefull, Paperpad. So I have been using all of them, but out of these, all four, Grammarly and Writefull make my life easy. And those two are the best in the world as of today. So therefore, that is the very reason for me to select these two. But it does not mean that you cannot use Ginger Paperpad. You can use as well. And in addition, there are a lot of others. AI inbuilt software are now coming up in the market. So you may be able to do, but if you know these two, your job can be done easily. So that's why I'm focusing on these two. You may have done it many times, but have yet to be successful. Why? I think everybody would have heard of Grammarly, except the Writefull. Writefull is something fairly new, but you would have been using this Grammarly, but you fail. Still you find that people say English has to be improved. Right? Can't be. So then the question is, the art of using the Grammarly is not what you know properly. Then the question comes as to how you improve yourself to make use of these softwares to your advantage. That is what you should be able to look at. So then again, I studied this again with the editors-in-chief. Why not be successful? English is not the native language for many, very obvious. And then what is necessary, select any software that corrects grammar and spelling. The second one says many are on the lookout for free essays writers, not paid version. That is what you have been doing. Even the Grammarly, everybody might have, connected with the freely available version, and then you make use of this freely available one, and you are very happy thinking that everything is perfect. But they have limitations. You cannot identify. The software developers never show you, never let you know that it lacks certain qualities. Right? It cannot check each and every. So therefore, many things, free versions correct everything, which is not the right thing. So you got to believe in that. Free essay writers can do high quality work as they do not provide all built-in facilities. So that's why you need to go for inbuilt, AI inbuilt versions. Right? Now say for example, if you say career can be spelled in two ways, two meanings. Right? But depending on the career you want to put into your in your manuscript, software cannot identify. Right? That's why the AI factor should be coming into play. But if you are to use AI inbuilt software, so that software can be able to identify which career is going to be right for your manuscript or in your paragraph. That can be very easily identified. New developments are plentiful, but their uses are sometimes cumbersome, and updates are required. Why? Because you embrace blindly cheaper ones without looking for what they are capable of. Right? So therefore, don't think getting hold of any software would solve your problem. Never. You must know the pros and cons of each and every software that you uses. Otherwise, you again fall onto a trap. Right. So therefore, that is something that you must keep in your mind. Needs a software to take care of basic principles, features of manuscript preparation. Lack of knowledge of features embedded is another problem. So therefore, your software would be able to identify, understand, perceive what you are going to do. Right? So that again, the answer would be AI inbuilt. Software can do that very easily for you. But remember, no software in the world will give you everything precise. Apply blindly to get garbage out is what you're going to get at the end. Right? Some of the papers you would have seen, they have checked, or the authors have gone through Grammarly, but at the end of the day, again, what comes out would be garbage, because you are not, contemplating well, and you accept everything blindly, which you can't do. No software in the world can give you anything perfect, right? So therefore, correction by Grammarly or any other software, you have to do one by one, and then you need to make sure what you accept is right or not. So therefore, there is an elemental of doubt involved in selecting the answer as well. Then how do you select ones with minimal pitfalls? My experience of using two software, Grammarly and Writefull, for more than 10 years, constantly and continuously pave my dividends. So that is why I would like to, introduce these two to you. Now, you must be worried how we are going to, go for this Grammarly and Writefull, because I bought myself, and I do keep, updating it, and I have the premium versions. Now you need not to worry, because you too have the free access to both premium versions at the library, and you will be guided by library personnels. Contact Dr. Nayan. Nayan, could you please stand up so that others will be able to see? Okay, so if you have any problem, go and disturb Nayan. If Nayan doesn't, help you, please let me know. I will make sure that she will help you all. Yes. All right, okay, so, okay, right, thank you. So, this is available, these two software, premium versions are available, and Nayani will be able to, give you some kind of a introductory, sessions as well. So therefore, you're not going to start blindly, right? I would advise you at least, give it a try, so that you will understand the importance of that. Not only that, the big picture is you will understand that you know nothing. Right? Now, every day when I write, I understand that I know nothing, or I have to improve myself. Right? Unless you do, you think you're the man, you're the one who knows everything. But when you apply yourself, then only you will understand. So, we have these two now available. You make use of these two, and you will understand how good it is and how easy it is for you to come out with your manuscript preparations. Why unique on Grammarly and Writefull? Now, this would be very, very difficult for you to read it, but these are the areas in which you go wrong. Right? I'm going to go to a little bit of nitty-gritties, so that you will make sure that you don't do these mistakes when you prepare your manuscripts. I just want to go one by one, because I'm going to, give everything for beginners. You must be a master, you must be a veteran, so that please bear with me. But those who want to start, and these are the common mistakes you do in your life when you prepare your manuscript. Use formal language. Always use formal language. Now, say for some of the words that I have given some examples, like smoking gun, but it's not a word for you to use in your preparation. But it's not a word. and then vis-a-vis. So these words are not allowed when you prepare your manuscripts. Likewise, there is a long list, right? Long list. So then they do not come under the formal language, but when you write paper articles, newsletter articles, all of them are approved. Absolutely no problem. So they will be used in newsletter article writing, but they are not allowed in manuscript or journal paper writing. And the number 2 says avoid contractions, etc. as soon as possible. R&D, temperature, TEM, dot. Not allowed. There are lots of abbreviations. Unless you, define, they are not allowed. Number 3, uses a third person, avoid second person pronunciation. Always you use he instead of you. And you never use word she. Right? Never use SHE. When you say he, it implies, both persons. No problem at all. Number 4, avoids interrogative statements, uses declarative statements instead. For example, avoids I think. You can say I think this experiment, your results are best. It is questionable. It may be possible. So all are not proper, I would say the quotes for you to put it into your manuscript. When it comes to a manuscript, everything has to be concrete, 100%. All right, you can't give anything in, I would say, percentage. It has to be 100%. Otherwise, you should not write a manuscript. Avoid exaggerations or hyperbolas. Exaggerations is took hours to crack the code. So you say, took hours. What do you mean by took hours? Nobody knows. But it can be written in newsletter articles, because you have to give that flavor for the reader to be, glued into your article. But it is not the same when you go for a manuscript. And then hyperbole is you are trying to, exaggerate to a very high level. That's what we call hyperbole. Took days to crack the codes. Right? Sometimes you say years. Right? Years to crack the code. Again, that is not acceptable. Number 6 says avoid sweeping generalization. You try to generalize. Microplastic pollution is high worldwide. Very obvious, everybody knows. But you can't put that sentence into a manuscript, because that is generalization. Right. And also it says climate change is real. You can't write like that. If you want to say something like that, still you need to qualify with a citation. Right? If you are going to go for usually called sweeping generalization, not only one citation, we put 2, 3, 4 citations. That is something that, what it means is that then only it becomes something that scientists have found. Otherwise, you are trying to, give away an idea of what everybody knows. So then it is going to be redundant. So never do that in your life whenever you prepare. Then it has to be clear, concise, and no repetitions. Avoid works like in order to. You never write in order to. Always it is to. Right? Instead of in order to, you must write to. All in all, not. In the process of, no. In the foreseeable future, no. In the case of no. Going forward, no. But all of them are acceptable in other writings. I'm not saying that they are wrong. They would add a bit of a glamour in your English, but not for manuscripts. Manuscript must be written very simple form, in concise. Number 8 says avoid emotive or exaggerated language. Never start with shall or should. I can write, say, this experiment shall give, blah, blah, blah. then it is going to be rejected. Okay, right? Then comes number 9, avoid redundant words and phrases. Avoid words like period of time. Right? Now, when you say period of time and time, both are same. So therefore, never combine period and time together. Right? So then that is redundant. Absolutely essential. If it is essential, it is essential. You don't want to say absolutely. Okay? And attach together. Attach is more or less enough. When you say attach, you know it is together. You don't want to put together. Best ever. If it is best, it is best. Right? But when it comes to, let's say, when you want to, express something, to, let's say, love, best ever is the best word, rather than the best. Right? But for the manuscript, best is enough. Classify into groups. You must say classify is anyway grouping. You don't want to say classify into groups. Close proximity, no. So therefore, always make sure that you have to get rid of all. Right? Because rule of thumb is, if the editor-in-chief is young, he knows more. And your paper is going to be rejected, chance of getting it rejected is more. Right? And also another rule of thumb is, if the editor-in-chief is coming from USA or North America, your paper is basically accepted, but if they are from Europe, chances are very remote. Right? They look at all of them very, very seriously. Right? So that is again another art of getting selected, a good paper. Right? Sometimes the editors hate papers coming from Asia. Right? So that is very important. And then comes avoid unnecessary jargon and define terms where needed. Avoid words like above mentioned, hereafter, work well but could be better, out of box, incredibly good. So therefore, they are to be completely avoided. Right? So that we don't want to use them. Then number 11 says, present information as precisely and accurately as possible. We measure the exit water temperature of the filter at every hour. Correct version would be, we managed to measure wrong. Right? Because when you say we managed to measure, half-baked stuff. The author could not, the reader could not understand what you want to say or what you have done. Particularly your methods. When you explain your method section, very important for you to give a precise statements. Okay. Number 12, users active voice instead of passive voice. Very, very important. Right. And we measured correct, the temperature was measured wrong. Right. Sometimes the journals accept both, but by and large, I would advise you go for the active voice so that many editors would prefer. They would understand easily. Now, when it comes to these two, we are much used to the second one, passive. But most of the editors are not so. So therefore, always try to put everything into active. So that would help you a lot rather than second. I'm not saying that the second one is wrong. Some accept, absolutely. But what we are now trying to do is to get rid of these pitfalls. So that why not convert everything into active? Most of the good journals with high impact factors, I would say about 20, that is a must. All must be written in active. Right? Active why? One paper would be authored by more than 20 authors. So therefore, that is why it is important. If you're looking at, say, if you have a chance, go home and then look at the papers published in Lancet, medical journal, the impact factor is 35, right? And then you can see at least 20 authors. So then, if you say temperature was measured, then the question is who Has every author measured the temperature? No. Maybe a couple of them, or maybe one. Right? So therefore, very important for you to, tell that to the readership. So therefore, that is why this number 12 is very important. Number 13, uses appropriate transitions to show the connections between ideas in a logical manner. Good connections are alternatively, conversely, moreover, similarly, after that. So that is, those are the set of words you basically use, but bad words are like this. Connectors are ever since, in addition to. Remember, in addition to is not a good word. Right? Don't say in addition to. Some definitely reject. In pursuit of, in memory of, but, in the process of, subsequently, in the meantime. Why subsequently is bad? When you say subsequently, nobody knows. It may be after 1 year, still the subsequently applies correct. So therefore you cannot use those words. So always keep in mind a set of words that you can use as connectors. That is very, very important. How I improved is I look at the connectors that are appearing in high impact journals, about 20. Very easy. You can be able to pick them up easily, and I have been using them. Right? I'll show you later why it is important as well. Number 14, organize using paragraphs. Example, in the introduction, first para, for example, first para for global and local problem. Right? Now, I'm now trying to give you a small example. When you write introduction, first para would be dedicated to explain or to articulate the global and local problems. Second para for what has been done in the global context and what is missing. Third para for what can be done to improve or solve the problem with objectives. Now with 3 paras, I now draft my introduction part of manuscript. Now every the para is dedicated for a particular reason, and then there is a clarity and there is a logical manner that I did it. You got to do this. That is what is called making a skeleton. Before you write, have your skeleton ready. That is what I basically do. So then you never go wrong. Because later, you may write it, but how much you read by yourself, you never understand that. Only the third party will understand. Right. So therefore, skeleton is very, very important. And then you put every para a meaning. And then the reader will be able to understand. And even the editor can be able to understand. The reviewer will be able to understand. Otherwise, you are going to be everywhere. Right? Then it's going to be perplexed, so that readership cannot understand. How the logical thinking is not there. Then comes the 15. Every part of the text relates to the central theme of the research. If the topic is on microplastics, do not talk of nanoplastic or macroplastics. No point. Right? But that is not what you do. You want to show off. You try to, put even what you know. Right? Not from the exact topic, but from the other topics as well. That is irrelevant. Editors need not to check your knowledge on other stuff. Right? So therefore, never write anything on other aspects. 16, supports the claim in question with evidence. Every sentence be backed by recent citations only. Very important. All what you see, what you write, if it doesn't come from you, you got to have the citation at the end. That is a must. Number 17, uses the appropriate verb tense in each section. This is what many of you make mistakes. Under introduction, always you say confirms. The word I have taken as confirm, you look at confirms or has confirmed. You can use present and past participle. And methods, only past, confirmed. When it comes to result section, past, confirmed. When it comes to discussion, has confirmed, past participle. When it comes to conclusion, again the present. Now, if you do not follow this, again your paper will be rejected, or maybe reviewers might come and say that you need to improve your English. Okay. So, always stick to the correct form of grammar that you have to apply for each section of your paper. Then comes the next one, 18, format numbers consistently. Whenever you write in your manuscript 1, 2, 3, up to 9, always use, write in words. නමය කියන ඉලක්කම ලියන්නේ නැහැ. That is wrong. Right? You have to say N-I-N-E, 9. But from 10 onwards, it has to be written in numerals. You are not going to say 11 කියලා ලියන්නේ, 12 කියලා අපි ලියන්නේ නැහැ. Words ලියන්නේ. So you put only a numeral. But up to 9, it is rather wrong for you to put numeral. Right? Now, many are doing this mistake. Right? Many of you do this mistake. So, never do it again, because that is rather bad. 19, cites sources using a consistent citation style. Always never mix it up. The easy way is use the Mendeley or EndNote reference management software. Either of these two is all right, but use, because the question comes when you write for the first journal, you do by yourself very well. But it is rejected, then you are going to write to another journal. And then when you are going to write to the second journal, same paper, sometime you might forget to change the reference style. That may have a different style, but if you use the EndNote or maybe the Mendeley, automatically it can be corrected. Right? So therefore, never ever use, do it by yourself. Use a software for all the citations. Avoid grammatical mistakes. Write simple sentences and read what you write. That is what you don't do. Right? And most of the problem for the Asians is your sentences are too long. Never do it. Always try to write simple sentences so that you will understand. The third party will also understand. And when you finish, you try to read what you write. Our biggest problem is you type it, but you never read it before it being sent sometimes. Even to a third party or your colleague. Never send it unless you read. Then next one. Use appropriate wordings instead of meaningless or loose wording. For example, taboo words. Usually we call taboo words. It has no meaning or maybe double meaning. Big money, good pattern, bad practice, a lot of test tubes, a kind of practice, correct stuff. All do not have any meaning. Right? And we call them taboo words. So never use them, because again the third party cannot understand what you really mean. Right? You yourself will be able to just figure out, but the third party or even the editor cannot be able to. So therefore, the moment they see this type of words, they are going to be furious and then they are going to reject. Right? The couple of papers are rejected. Good papers were rejected because of use of taboo words, right, in some of these Elsevier papers. So I got some of these examples, so I never use these words. Okay. Then comes number 22, use correct punctuations. 90% of you fall into this category. You don't know where to put stop, semicolon, colon, right? Now say for example, we say we measured the temperature and then it has to be a semicolon, hence, comma, we managed to predict the temperature increments over time. Now the moment you go wrong with dot, comma, semicolon, finish. So therefore, Grammarly would help you correct all of them. Right. So therefore, try to learn that art as well. And then I do believe 95% of you do not know how to use correct dash, n dash, m dash. Right? මේ අඩු ගන්න මේ කීබෝඩ් එකේ මේ ඩෑෂ් එක ගහන්න දන්නෙත් නැහැ. ඩෑෂ් එක දන්නවා. n ඩෑෂ් එක ගහන්න දන්නෙත් නැහැ. m ඩෑෂ් එක ගහන්න දන්නෙත් නැහැ. That is wrong. Right? The පොඩිම එකට අපි කියනවා dash, n dash කියලා කියන්නේ මැද තියෙන එකට, dash m dash කියලා කියන්නේ ලොකු ඉරට. Right? But in Apple it is different, but in the other computers again is different way. But learn how to use this. The premise would be how or where you use all three. Some of the words are connected with each other. Now say wire fastener, podira, four-figure, podira, four-figure number. When you say four-figure number, four-figure is going to be connected with the dash. 2/3, all small dash or simple dash, you call dash in between. Whenever you work with numerals, you have to use all the time what you call n dash, right? You say my temperature falls between 25 to 30 centigrade. 25, 30, between that what you should type is n dash, not dash, not m dash, right? Or even through between years, north, south. Then publish in environmental quality. LC, then the next one, n dash. M dash is to qualify your statement with more information. Or sometimes instead of using a comma or semicolon, you can be able to use m dash. But you hardly use m dash in your manuscripts. But m dash is very often used in your newsletter writing. The only person who has done in our university, even academia, is only Professor Ajit Diallis. You look at what he writes. He is not here, right? So then no problem. I can tell. He is the only person I have seen. Writing dashes right. All the others I have seen making this wrong. So therefore, that is something that we should include into our mind, because when you are to write any journal which, let's say, having more than 10 impact factor, you have to be 100% right in using dashes. Which type of dash be used is dependent on your knowledge. So therefore, try to learn this. And very, very important, or sometimes m dash, instead of within brackets, you can put this m dash. And then whenever you use m dash, either side, you have to have a free space, right? No time for me to give everything, but later you will be meeting me so that I would be able to help you correct yourself. Then number 24, create short sentences instead of lengthy ones. Right. Many problems for Asians is we tend to write long sentences. Rule of thumb would be maximum 2-3 lines. 2 would be ideal. I always try my best to finish within 2 lines. Okay. And then that is very important. 25, uses appropriate vocabulary relevant to the subject matter. Now say in the case of vaccine, right, saying I work in that area, so that's why I took it. Roll out would be the best word instead of launch. We never say that the vaccines are launched. We say roll out of vaccines. If you don't use the roll out word, the question is, editor knows that I am not familiar with this area very much, so that there is a chance of it getting rejected, right? Because I have got some comments of this nature. So therefore, always you need to, make use of correct words depending on your area of expertise. 26 says, maintain the same style throughout the write-ups. Abbreviations, shortened forms, etc. are very, very important. But remember, you don't want to define some universal abbreviated forms like USA. There is no word called USA. Always the word called the USA. You go and then check. Never says USA. I'm in USA. No, I'm in the USA. And then the UK. But when it comes to WHO, you never say we work in the WHO, right? So when a WHO, UNESCO, they never come, the word the connected to each other. But when it comes to the USA, UK, the Netherlands, never you say Netherlands, the Netherlands, okay? So that's how you do. 27 sticks either to American or British English consistently. And always analyze with S, British, analyze with Z, American. Right? And then when you say help to solve, British, help solve, American. Color versus color, U is missing in American, but in British, U is there. Modeling, double L for British, one L for Americans. Skillful, only one L for British. Skillful, double L for American. You cannot mix it up. And then I have seen most of the time, you try to mix all of them together. I never do it. I do all the time American English. Why? As I mentioned, rule of thumb is, the bad editors are from Europe, right? So that the moment you change your English into Americans, they are also a bit clueless, right? So Americans hardly do that, but they also, go through this. So that is one way of, getting over that problem, right? So therefore, I use American English all the time. 28, proposes synonyms when appearing more than one or twice. Very important. Never say use word more than twice. Now say one example that I want to give you, articulate. You try to express clearly. That's what articulate means. You can say describe, disclose, state, and there are so many. Infer. Likewise, you can differ certain words. And then 29, rephrases with better meaning, we call paraphrasing. Divide the sentence into clauses and connect them through connectors to give original meaning. Say whenever you get a certain sentence, you never try to do paraphrasing without being split into 2 or 3. You have to split into 3 or 4 depending on the size of that sentence, and through the connectors you connect everything. That's how paraphrasing basically be done. Otherwise you are going to miss the original meaning. Some part of the original statement could be very easily missed out. That you should never do it. Then comes 30, correct capitalized words. First word in the sentence, name of the people, name of the places, trademarks, days, months and seasons, abbreviations must start with capitalized character. Keep that in mind. 31, avoids, adds the word the in sentences. This is 99% of you make mistakes. You don't know where to put the, where not to put the. That is again another problem. Over the time, very wrong. And I have seen many writing over the time. No, there is no the, before time. It says over time. The USA, the color, red. Whenever you specialize a particular color, the is important. Word. On the Friday, no. When you say Friday, Saturday or whatever the day, the has to be, should not be there. Then to the Katubadda, no. You never go to the Katubadda, you go to Katubadda. Measure the pH, no. Measure pH. For the receipt of, there is no the when it comes to receipt. And India, you measure India, no. In air. Okay, in air. give the information. Information should not be preceded by the word the, right? Give information. So you have to correct them, but you don't want to worry. Grammarly will correct them, but again, blindly you cannot. So you got to know some part of that at least, right? So that's why experience in writing is important, right? Even though you use Grammarly. The last one, avoids plagiarism. Similarity index need to be less than 10%, but in my case, as I mentioned, I go 2%. I don't want to take a chance, right? Because still it may be copying sometimes. So therefore, try to make it minimal as much as possible. So what you can do, all of these 32 items, basic errors or the pitfalls or the mistakes you do that I highlighted earlier. But remember, with Grammarly, you can be able to address all 32. All 32 you can be able to address with Grammarly. Right. The Grammarly software is the premium version start at $29.95 per month, but if you go for an annual description, it's going to be little less. But you don't want to worry by buying this, because it's available now in the library and also with FGS. You can use free and write your best Grammarly. Join over 30 million people and 50,000 teams who use Grammarly every day to make their writing shine. Right. So therefore, it's better you start with the free version, but when it comes to Manuscript, free version is not the version you should use. That's why the premium version is now available. Always stick to the premium version when it comes to the Manuscript writing, but for your day-to-day English writing, free version may be enough. Okay. Now this is how you do. What I am now showing is one of the Sri Lankan papers taken from a journal, published, right? And I took it and then I just applied the Grammarly. My goodness, you can see a lot of mistakes, but publish. Then it is obvious that this journal is a predatory journal. They never call themselves predatory, but this is what it says. Very obvious. How you are going to find this? Now this is the statistics. If you are going to use the Grammarly, make sure that under performances, right? And if you are not sure of this page, ask Nayani. Nayani will be able to show you later. It says 26. Your test score out of 100 is 26. Unless this is going to be more than 90%, you go wrong. And you try to improve this more than 90%. Otherwise, somewhere, something has gone wrong. Therefore, it has to be kept in your mind. And also readability score 3.8, which is very bad, and it has to be more than 90%. Right now, this says word length, sentence length just above average. That would be all right, but readability score is 38. Very bad, meaning audience or the third party, the readership cannot understand what you write. Right? But publish. You can find the same thing in the internet now in one of these journals. I don't want to show them. One of the university guys from our university, right? That is why it is a shame, right? University of Moratuwa appears, right? So I'm now going to show you a publication from University of Moratuwa. Okay, and again, this is you are going to see where you are with the Grammarly. You can be able to see all what I say, correctness, determine, use A and D. This is what I said earlier. See, fairly all right. Meaning that he would have used, something bad, not the Grammarly, right? Something bad. So that's why they have got 9%. Wrong or missing prepositions 3. Confused words 5. if you add up all, you can be able to see where you have gone wrong. Now when it comes to clarity, unclear sentences 4, very bad. Now I have taken only one page. I showed you only one page. In that page you get all of this, not the entire manuscript. If you take the entire manuscript, this would be miles long, right? So clarity is also bad. Engagement, word choice, 5. For me it's bad again, because it doesn't have the proper vocabulary. Right. Every one of these attributes tells you something. So therefore you must improve that by yourself. But this I cannot give each and every unless you do by yourself, and will try to do maybe hands-on experience one day, you will understand. Okay. Then comes the Writefull. The Writefull's software is basically meant for academic and technical writing, and the best language feedback is given by that, and it has clever widgets to help you write better English, better stuff, and fast and secure. I'm not going to go each and every. Now this is the most usable or used software for academic writing. Grammarly is not only for academic writing, but Writefull is meant for academic writing, particularly for your publications. So therefore, you may be able to use, and Writefull is AI. It helps you write, paraphrase, copy edit, and there are many more. I'm not going to read everything. You can go and then you can be able to read it. Look at this, your abstract, you don't want to worry. You are not going to write your abstract first. How you do, you always write your abstract later. What is important is your entire manuscript. Now you try to copy the manuscript, put it into this, the platform. This software creates your own abstract. That abstract is 100% correct. Right? That abstract is 100% correct. So therefore, you are not worried of writing your own abstract. Right? So this software can be able to give you an abstract. Now this is same thing, same paper that I read earlier. Look at, now this is the author's title and abstract, and it says the development on water transport system in Sri Lanka with available water resources. Development on water transport is wrong. Title itself is wrong. Look at the title and the abstract generated. The title would be an investigation into a new inland waterway transport network in Colombo Fort. Now it sounds nice. And also the abstract is given like this. Now here this abstract has many mistakes even. It is highlighted by the Writefull itself. Okay? So therefore, you can be able to adjust, and even the title can be made easily. Now this is the title generated. The original title is Development on Water Transport System in Sri Lanka with Available Water Resources. The new title is A Study of Waterways Network in Western Province, Sri Lanka. Right. I'm not asking you to blindly accept what it gives, but it can give you better, the terminologies or better title. Sometimes if you feel that your title is the best, you can leave it as it is. No problem as well. But why not give it a try and see whether another title, so that you can be able to compare with your original. Right? I mean, it takes only a couple of seconds. So within couple of seconds, you can be able to find it easily. And not only that, this gives you all of these. These are the very important stuff, because Writefull can identify your area of expertise. Any area it can identify. It basically does simple search, compare in context, word in context, synonyms in context. All of these things can be able to do. Now when you are looking at I just want to give you one example. Simple search, meaning that you don't know how to write t-test. You may write t-test like this, others use as t-test. Now see the difference to compare. So then what you can do is, you can be able to 100% guarantee how to write t-test. How to write t-test. Sometimes you start with capital T test, right? So then you say capital T dash simple T est, wrong, right? So therefore, you can't remember or you can't learn everything by heart how to write t-test, but if you have this, automatically corrects, right? So then you never go wrong. Compare, you can compare with certain words. Now you want to use either notable or noticeable, you don't know which is correct. Then when you just use this widget, compare widget in Writefull, it says, it goes through millions of papers and it says notable is used by 53%, noticeable is used by 57%. So therefore, either would be applicable in your area of expertise, right? So therefore, either using notable or noticeable, no problem at all. You can use either of these two. Then compare in context. Example, you don't know which one is correct, an effective algorithm or an efficient algorithm. Which one is correct? And you say others, an effective algorithm is only 5%, right? Only 5% uses effective algorithm. An efficient algorithm is written by 95%. Obviously, what is correct? Efficient word instead of effective, right? So now you correct yourself. You don't want to know English, but that helps you put the right wording, in your manuscript. Then under word context, you can write aims to give a comparison, and others says aims to provide a comparison 5%, or aims to perform a comparison 95%. So therefore, obviously, rather than aims to give a comparison, I would rather select aims to perform comparison. 95% says that is correct. So therefore, that is the better, part of the sentence. And then synonyms, you say reported a big problem. Now I said that big usually you never use, right? Reported a big problem when you do an experiment. Others say reported a major problem, right? Reported a major problem. Likewise, there are certain wording that you can be able to very easily pick up using these widgets of Writefull software. Okay, now one example. You see, had a positive impact 27%, had a significant impact 23%, had a substantial impact 13%, had a major impact 12%, had a large image 10%, had a strong impact 4%, blah blah. Final one is had a serious impact 1%. You see, all combination given with percentages, so that you can be very easily select. Otherwise, you sometimes when you write, you get stuck. You don't know which word to be used. Now this would help you find the correct wording that you need to do. And then what you can do is, you can do the paraphrasing. That is a very, very important, because the way you think in singular cannot be transformed into English easily. That is the one of the faults of us, becoming, our mother tongue is singular, but you have to write everything in English. And I don't think any one of you think in English, since your mother tongue is singular. So you think everything is single and you try to convert everything into English. In that case, paraphrasing would help you a lot. That is what you call the tone of the structure is right. Again, only person that I have seen, doing this right is Professor Ajit. Right? Read Professor Ajit's sentences, whatever he writes, perfect. Right? Now, one can say that maybe on Sunday I have visited so and so. Another person can say, I have visited so and so on Sunday. Which one is correct? That depends on how you are going to emphasize your statement. But in most of the academic writing, on Sunday never comes in front. It comes at the end. But when you write the newspaper articles on Sunday is something that you're going to give a priority, so it comes first. Right? But in manuscript, you never ever start with, starting with on Sunday, meaning that your tone of the sentence is wrong. But that can be corrected with paraphrasing. But this has 3 levels. Low mode, same sentence, what is given on the top. You see that 3 different ways of writing. Low mode, medium mode, high mode. And when I'm writing to good journals, always I select high mode. I would advise you to go for a high mode, because high mode will give you more authentic wordings, very unique to your field of specialization. So therefore go for a high mode, and then you will be able to select better wording, because you yourself may be right, but you don't know. And so every word or every sentence I write, I do paraphrasing, at least to understand whether I'm right or not. Right? So therefore do that for every sentence you put across in your manuscript. And also we have a sentence palette. We have a sentence palette. Those who do not know how to begin a writing of different sections, right? Say, for example, for introduction to acknowledgement, you have absolutely no problem. You need not to know which language or which let's say tense to be used. It will give you everything. Now this one example. When you go to this, you will understand. When you are writing introduction section, let's say, topic of importance. Now these are the words you find in the introduction. Recognized as, widely used, main, well-known, growing attention, uses. So likewise, you can select literature, methods. Now look at this, now I said, we followed. Right? Because you already did something. That is what you are explaining under method. So that always you use past tense, never past participle. Right? And this method use is as described. Right? This is not the best way, because this is again the passive, but I don't use passive, but sometimes you can use passive, absolutely no problem. But look at the words. And when it comes to conclusion, right? In summary, presented, shown in this paper, suggest. Whenever you say you're going to, in conclusions, you're trying to, just give away your findings. Whenever you give your findings, you do it in past tense. But you looking at your output, now you are going to, relate something to your outcome. When you are relating to outcome, always you use presence, suggest. Right? Now you're trying to, look at the global problem, but what in your experiment you do a small, sample analysis with samples. From the sample analysis, you are now trying to say, predicts on population. Whenever you connect sample, your sample analysis to the final, let's say, the population, always you use present tense, suggest. You never say suggested, or you never say has suggested. So all of them can be very easily understood if you follow this before you start writing your manuscript. Before you start, just navigate all of this once, you will learn everything. And then finally you apply. Once you finish your writing, The manuscript you put into this, and using this, the Writefull widget, we call check document or even check paragraph. You go paragraph by paragraph, or finally you go for check development. It will check one by one, and it will correct again. So then the question is, why you are going to use two? Why Grammarly then? Grammarly is much more conversant or robust compared to this when it comes to English checking. But this has more facilities for manuscript writing. If you do not know your English, this is where you are going to start, right? But Grammarly is for that last part. So therefore, how you do, this is what you have to basically remember. How you mingle both Grammarly and Writefull for a better manuscript preparation. How do you begin to use Grammarly and Writefull in combination? Here it is all I did for better results. This is what I did. Step 1, write your own manuscript, with simple sentences, with your own vocabulary. It may 100% wrong, don't worry. You don't want to worry. Step 2, check whether your sentences are in order with the sentence palette using Writefull. Now this is for the beginner. If you are sure of this one, you can very easily, step 2 can be omitted. But if you have to start, see whether you have used the right tenses, right? Right tenses in your introduction, in your, let's say, methods, and so on. Number 3, do the simple search for unsure words or phrases using Writefull. I do the simple check. That is to make sure whether your English, vocabulary is good. Number 4, do compare and compare in context for unsure words and phrases using Writefull. Again, you are improving that. Step 5, do words in context and synonyms in context for needy places using Writefull. That is to see whether you are using the right word, right? I mean, you can use do. Is the word do right? You can check using this. Step 6, do paraphrasing high mode using Writefull. So paraphrasing would give you that will correct the tone of the sentence. Then only the native English speakers will understand what you say. Right now, but the one example that I say, on Sunday you start, or maybe Sunday comes later. So that can be corrected with step 6. Number 7, apply full edit mode, sentence checking for every sentence using Writefull. Now up to 7, you are going to correct your English, grammar, the vocabulary, correct wording, and removing unnecessary wording, and all you do up to 7. 8, generate the abstract and title using Writefull. Now you are ready with your manuscript. Once you are ready with your manuscript, then only you go for Grammarly. The Grammarly comes later, and check the manuscript now with Grammarly. The Grammarly will help you correct, put everything into the 100% correct English, because the Grammarly software is meant to correct English, right? Number 10, check for plagiarism using even Grammarly. The premium version has plagiarism inbuilt. You can be able to check now at this moment of time whether the plagiarism is less than, similarity index is less than 5%. In my case, I go for 2%. Now this from step 1 to step 10 is what you need to do. If you do all, you are going to be a perfect writer. That's what I have been doing for all my papers. Now this is one of the classic things that I would like to share with you. Dividends of my effort. This is exactly what I did for this paper. My paper published in a high impact journal, 8.43, fairly high, environmental research, Elsevier journal. So this is transmission of COVID-19. But I got, recently, 2020, I wrote it, and within a month, I got it published, within a month. I got it published. What I did, I followed 10 steps. That's all. Nothing else. And these are the reviewer comments. I just want to show you, never ever, one of the reviewers is the editor-in-chief, but he was very happy with what I get. But the reviewer one, the other reviewer says, the paper is very interesting. However, it is too long and not easy to be followed by the reader. This is a mentality of an Asian. When I write, I don't like to cut it. I always try to keep it as much as possible. Even when you put your thesis, 80% is rubbish. 80% is rubbish, truly speaking. Why? You always try to show off. That is the nature of Asians. And this is very at a higher level when it comes to Indians, unlike us, right? And it says, I suggest to reduce the manuscript and use some explicative schema to make the paper more easy to read for all paragraphs 1 to 5. Instead of writing everything, why not put it into a small diagram, right? Scheme. And then another possibility is that the work may be more concentrated on paragraph 6. The definition of droplets and aerosol must be defined, clarified to avoid confusion. Now see the difference. You have to define some of them which I missed. I thought that aerosols and droplets are clearly understandable to each and every, not so. The author should introduce the definition of airborne virus diffusion. At page 15, a reference that can be directed linked to COVID-19 must be inserted instead, because it is too old. So then that you can't do. In view of these revisions, I suggest major revision for this work. Right? They consider this to be a major revision, but it did not take much time for me. The reviewer too, this review on the COVID-19 is very comprehensive, and it addresses a lot of aspects related to the pandemic. The authors provide a lot of information about the risk and exposure to the new virus. Globally, the text is well organized, but could be better structured. That is again another problem. I thought that I did perfect, but apparently not so. Due to the number of different aspects addressed, I think that an effort could be made to shorten the length of the text again. Now see, both have picked it up easily, right? So meaning that I have to, basically just drop it. And others, I don't want to read it, but those are small items. And I would like you to, just put into 2 here. This particular para says, he says replace incredibly by surprisingly. The word incredibly, unfortunately I missed. That is a taboo word. Incredibly, right? Instead of that, they want us to use surprisingly, right? So therefore, now see, if you have picked it up when you just did very first manuscript writing, this question would have not been there, right? So therefore, when you are looking at these 2 reviewers, nobody asked me to correct my English, right? I'm very happy, because I used these 2 softwares to get away from that. That was one of the reasons for my paper be accepted. Not only that, my effort is not in vain. I published in Environmental Research Journal in September 2020, right? Published Elsevier Impact Factor 8.43 index in SCI index. It's a Q1 paper. Remember, by December, I published in September. By December 2020, the 5th most cited paper. Mine is the 5th most cited paper out of 3,438. Mine became number 5 within 3 months. By May 2021, 3rd most cited paper out of this. By December 2021, 2nd from 2,467 papers. By January 2022 onwards, most cited paper until today. right? And I have 1,908 out of 1,980 papers. And up to now, I have 1,035 citations in Google Scholar. I never ever checked this one with anyone else. I did check only with Writefull and Grammarly. That's all. But I managed to come to that, right? And not only that, the Sri Lankan who got the highest citation for a paper written by Sri Lankans on any topic of COVID-19 until date. මේ වෙනකන් COVID ගැන ලියලා තියෙන ඔක්කොම 300 ගානක් papers, Sri Lankans. Out of that, I became the number one. 2 interviews from international media, I did. The more than 200 inquiries from the readership globally, I had to answer. About 10 official requests for reproduction in other journals and reputed blogs with copyright agreement. I already gave them the permission, but I don't get the permission, but I basically jointly get it. And then if somebody, third party, asks me, I can't say yes, you can publish. No, they can't copy from mine because it belongs to the journal. I have to direct to the journal. Most downloadable paper for 3 consecutive weeks in 2020. Right? And commended letter from Elsevier. What else you expect? Right? But I did all only with these 2. Right? My English is not as good as Professor Ajit. Right? But I managed to, did that. Why? Because of these 2. So why not give it a try? I mean, you yourself can be able to do it. You need not to get yourself demoralized. Keep in mind that for a successful research career, no pains, no gains. Right? You have to put yourself into pains, otherwise no gains. Also, failures are the pillars of success. Also, what comes easy won't last. What lasts won't come easy. Right? So these are the Nobel, the sentences I always follow. So I put myself into this, and I do pretty hard to come into this. But remember, with these 2. So I'm very, very, happy to say you that I never send my papers to anyone else to check, and I do follow these 2 the way I explain. So that helped me understand a lot. Right? And since I have been practicing this, I know most of this, the pitfalls where you will very easily, fall. And also most of the students do make mistakes, but that's okay. But you have to make mistakes, then only you learn, and that help you, come out of that pitfalls as well. Thank you very much, and I do believe that we have at least 1 or 2 questions if the organizing committee agrees. Okay, thank you very much. The presentation will be made available for you, so maybe through FTS you can copy. Is that? Can you just Okay, so the question number 1. In very recent research, we can see that the authors tend to avoid using he, she to avoid gender bias. Any guideline around this? That is wrong. You have to use he. It's not the gender bias, but that when you look at, there is always, guidelines for the authors. You read the guideline for authors, it says very clearly. All high impact journals uses the word he. Right? It's not gender bias. It has been very clearly given in the guidelines given for authors. Next question. Is that all? Okay.
So I would like to invite our audience. You can scan this QR, no need to log in, and you can post your questions here. So if you have any questions to clarify with Professor Mahesh Jayaweera, please post so we can have one-to-one session. Yes. So we have a microphone, so if you have any questions, you can ask.
Yeah, even if you have, you need not to go through that, and then if you have one or two, I'm prepared to answer you. You can put your hands up. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. So actually, that was really insightful delivery, sir. So actually, sir, one question I have when I was writing this kind of questions, I was using Quillbot for paraphrasing basically. So because I believe that my vocabulary is not that good. So once I do that paraphrasing, I feel that the delivery is a little bit off once I get, because that words doesn't give the exact meaning I wanted to give in my research, sir. So how to rectify that, sir?
Best thing what you have to do is you take the original sentence, put it into 3 or 4 depending on what you want to say, short, I would say parts of the sentences, right? And then you try to connect them, through connectors. That is how you do paraphrasing, right? It is not that you write, using different wording, right? If looking at the original sentence, you put it into, what is given there, the important facts. You try to put it in the shortened forms. And then through connectors, you try to connect. That is the only way that you do. Now, say, for example, when I ask my students, I never ask them to write, because I know that how they write. I ask them to copy straight away from journals, right? That is one-to-one copying. And they copy everything, right? And then it will be easy for me to do paraphrasing to get that idea in different way. That is what I do. That is much quicker. But if you ask, students to write, abstracting or extracting from a particular journal, a paper, they cannot do it. But with experience, yes. Now, say for example, Professor Ajit need not to do like that. He can straight away, extract, right? But fresh graduate students or even the postgraduate students cannot do it properly. So therefore, that has to be practiced. I do by myself, same. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, sir, for the very helpful presentation. I think we will do better in future. So my question is, in one slide you mentioned if you are focusing on microplastic, not to mention about nano and other types of. But I was focusing on one review, writing a review paper on satellites. So my focus is nano satellites, particularly cube satellites. So, but I have to mention that why I choose that category, right? So while I am writing it, I have to mention about like other types, and out of them why I choose that. So should it be like that, or directly I should like?
When you are writing a review paper, art of writing a review paper is different from an ordinary paper. For a review paper, if you have to first find out why you write the review paper. The many review papers do not know. I mean, nowadays students do not know why you write review papers. It is not the collection or the amalgamation of past data to understand the what is in it. That is not. But using these, you have to come out with some idea, something new. Otherwise, nowadays you can't even come out with a review paper, right? So that's why now we never say review paper. Nowadays we call it what? Systematic review and meta-analysis. What you are going to do is, from the past data done by many, you are trying to see a pattern. You are getting a pattern from them, and then you throw out for the people to understand that there is a pattern or there isn't a pattern, something like that. In that case, yes, what you said is correct. You cannot, in isolation, work on nanoparticles, Sometimes you need to, put some at least 1 or 2 sentences, a relation to microparticles as well. That is perfectly correct. But in normal write-ups, you can't use it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful presentation. So I believe that Research Week 2022 will be a game changer for our university research career. So thank you again, sir. And shortly we will be welcoming Professor Jayaweera as University of Moratuwa Research Publication Mentor in Residence to support research students. Thank you, sir. So before moving to the next segment, I would like to invite Dean, Faculty of Graduate Studies, Professor Ajit D. Alvis, and also speaker, Professor Mahesh Jayaweera, to the stage to present the token of appreciation. Thank you, sir. So with that fruitful discussion, we will be going for a lunch break, and I would like to invite everyone to be back on this same location by 1:30 p.m. And there will be an exciting event will be commencing at 1:30 p.m., which is 3MT thesis competition. And I would like to invite all your colleagues to support our challenges or the participants who are competing in 3MT thesis competition. And because your participation will be important for the People's Award. So I would like to welcome you all and for the session starting at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, so before we, depart, there is another question. One of the comments I received is not enough citation included in the paper. In the respective manuscript, tried to be original as the methodology was quite novel. I am not very sure how to rectify this. This is a good question. I mean, whenever you start something very new, you might not find, very many citations. That's correct. But in that case, you got to make sure that the title focuses on the development of the methodology. If it is going to be on the development of the methodology, absolutely you are correct. Now, this, I don't think you would have concentrated on the development of the methodology. But of course, yes, you would have come out with something new method, yes. But very sorry, you can't do it. That is why you have to have another paper on the new development of your, the methods, right? And that's how I do, right? And then you know that in the Elsevier there is a, usually you can come out with the preprints on the methodology development, right? And I do believe that you should first write that, right? Methods, that's called the methods. That's actually a kind of a journal which is online, preprints coming up, right? So try to establish or try to put across that, but I don't know whether they are counted as the publication, but in the other countries, yes, they are counted. Right. And then with that, you can qualify, and then thereafter you don't want to write anything. You put your name as a citation. That's what I did. For the first time in Sri Lanka, my team, myself and Professor Buddhika and Professor Jagat, we developed the analysis of glyphosate in Sri Lanka for the first time. And I did, for the first time, the cracking of phthalates into different, coming from the bottle. First time measurements. For the methods, we spent more than 2 years, right? Until two years, we are completely, blank. Now I am doing with one of the PhD students on bisphenol A for the first time. Again, we have spent 1.5 years to crack down the methodology, right? That's research. That's R&D. Right? That is important, but so the answer would be, of course, you are basically trapped. If you do not publish your new development or the new methodology first. Right? I hope you understood the answer. Okay.
So thank you again for sharing your knowledge and answering the questions generously. So we can have a lunch break and we can be back at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.